Good afternoon. Are we ready to go? Okay. It is 1 o'clock. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. We do have a quorum. All directors are present. Ms. Dodson, our administrative analyst, HR and IT gal, has requested that she be able to read the general public comment first, since she has so many written public comments. We also are going to be taking public comment a little bit later individually on the strengths and weaknesses. So if you have things specifically about that, we're going to go ahead and take those at that time. But if it's general public comment on the strategic plan itself, we'll have Haley read those and then we'll take public comment.
Okay, so I have 7, and it looks like these people actually are attending, so I won't read their comments. But starting with the first comment is from Jim Townsend. Dear President Dean and members of the Board of Directors, thank you for the opportunity to provide these comments on the strategic plan review and update. Having reviewed the agenda packet for today's strategic planning meeting, I note there appears to be no mention of the permanent replacement for the main water service line that failed in December 2021. It is hard to imagine anything being a higher priority than the permanent replacement of the temporary line lying on the ground within the state park wetlands. Please prioritize a permanent fix to this critical district infrastructure. The CCSD board should actively repair its fractured relationship with the Coastal Commission. Like it or not, the Coastal Commission has the final say on many of CCSD's projects and activities. There is nothing to be gained and much to lose by continuing to ignore the Commission's concerns. A big step in repairing that fractured relationship would be to amend the current CDP application for the WRF to make it clear that the WRF will only be used to provide drought protection for existing users as it was originally sold to the voters. The board should consider an independent review of the entire WRF project, especially the inability of staff to complete even an application for a non-emergency permit for the facility 9 years after its construction. There are plenty of other issues for the board to address. The crazy expensive restroom project on the East Ranch is looking like it's going to cost more than a house, while providing very limited benefit to the community at large. The project should be rescoped with an eye towards reducing its cost, its impacts on the surrounding neighborhood, and ongoing maintenance expenses. Financial data regarding major capital projects such as the WRF and upcoming wastewater treatment plant upgrades should be provided to the ratepayers in a complete and understandable manner. Staffing issues at the management level need to be addressed. Frequent turnover and ongoing litigation involving the district's office staff does nothing to advance the district's mission. There's clearly something seriously amiss when senior admin staffers aren't allowed in the building. Finally, I'd like to suggest that the board members take a peek at the video from the recent County Board of Supervisors. It is not only necessary, but possible to take bold actions to deal with the issues discussed above. It only requires leadership. Thank you for your service, Jim Townsend.
Thank you.
The next written comment is from Mahala Burton. Please remove the investigation of new technologies for brine waste disposal second quarter 2023 from the strategic plan goals. Until the CDP for the WRF is permitted by the county and has undergone all its appeals, it is premature to spend manpower, time, and money when there is a real possibility the WRF will not be permitted for the 250 acre-feet desired for the build out of the water wait list. It is more realistic to face the inevitable that the WRF will only be permitted to provide water for current users and to protect the aquifer from subsidence during droughts. It is the insurance policy against draconian rationing the community desires. If there is no new building allowed, the small amount of brine generated for current users can be trucked to South County. Furthermore, the water master plan potable water supply section is now 18 years old. This section used to justify an additional 250 acre-feet of water in the dry season was based on seawater desalination, not on brackish water. Rather than spend money and time looking for brine disposal, disposal, perhaps never needed it at its time to declare the water master plan obsolete and remove the 250 acre feet from the regular CDP application before the SLO County Planning Department. Sincerely, Mahala Burton. The next written comment is from Lauren Younger. Regarding the CCSD 6-month plan, number 6 under facilities and resources, which refers to the restroom permitting, it refers to restrooms plural. Is that in one building or does this allow for more to be built? Second, I know we have been assured that any light on the outside of that building will be designed to protect the night sky. However, light bouncing off the ground always travels up the hill that surrounds the rodeo grounds, which is where owls live and hunt. Any bouncing light up that hill can affect their ability to hunt, and so they might move on. There is a light on the outside of the restroom, so please place the building so that the light faces the town, not the hill, to help avoid that bounce. I have not seen a plan for the restroom, so I have no idea how the structure has been placed. Please don't finish the permitting process until the owls are considered and protected. Thank you, Lauren Younger. And the last written comment I have to read is from Tina Dickinson. Good morning, CCSD board. I will not be attending the meetings for the strategic plan. I have seen no positive changes since the previous strategic plan meetings, and I rather doubt anything will be forthcoming of substance from this meeting. It is worth noting that your first goal that we have a sensitive ecosystem. I'm not sure how that'll be addressed by regulatory agencies as the CDP moves forward. How did former CCSD Director Cindy Stidel become the facilitator for this meeting? Who made this decision and why? This is just another example of why I cannot trust certain elements of the CCSD. I hope the CSDA training you will be participating in may help in this area and many others. The first item of business in your plan should be hiring a new GM. It's not even on the list. Regarding last year's number 1 goal, improve communication with the public, that has not even been accomplished. Our district appears to operate under a shroud of secrecy. A serious look needs to be taken at the role of the standing committees and the tasks assigned to them. The board needs to have important issues brought before it. Too much is tasked to the standing committees, which also means that members of the public, in order to stay informed, are expected to attend at least 5 meetings a month. That does not speak well of an agency's ability to handle the work by those who are hired and elected for a community of 5,700. Having attended the December 12, 2022 R&I committee meeting is a prime example of why the district engineer or any member of staff should be giving such reports directly to the board, not after presenting it first to the R&I committee. Not a single member of the R&I committee had a question about Mr. D'Anzo's report, yet 4 members of the public raised issues with his presentation, as did the Coastal Commission staff. When will the crucial replacement of the Stewart Street tanks be addressed and taken care of? Please remember the 17 million rate increases incurred last July 1st and why, to pay for much needed CIPs at the wastewater treatment plant. I hope you'll have an answer as to when work might begin on those CIPs. When will the temporary San Simeon pipeline be addressed for our water supply from San Simeon? Please consider also the effluent pipe. It is old and obviously vulnerable to what occurred to the water pipeline. Our water and sewer infrastructure needs are the greatest importance and are the district's primary obligations to the community. Why is the zero liquid discharge item included in your agenda? This has not even been addressed by the board in a transparent manner to the public, and a proposal is required from GWI before anything can be done going forward. Again, another instance of the cart before the horse. I suggest taking care of the CDP for the EWS, SWF, WRF. We have only been waiting and paying millions of dollars, more than what was originally estimated, for almost 9 years. This is an indication of extremely poor leadership and incompetent staffing. WRF, In-Stream Flow Study Report. When will the public be hearing of the study performed by Stillwater Sciences? I've only touched on a few items. There are many more. I hope you'll have a productive and meaningful meeting that will actually result in some issues that seriously need to be addressed, not pie in the sky dreams. Regards, Tina Dickinson. And then I do have Crosby, Swartz, Dennis Dudzik, and Elizabeth Benhausen that submit written comments, and they're available to speak via Zoom. So whenever you would like them to come in.
Are they specific on the 3 items we're taking public comment later on, or are they in general on the strategic plan?
One's on 3B, The other one submitted 4 comments that I can't figure out what he wants
Why
to
don't you,
speak
why
on.
don't you go ahead and let's do those.
Okay. So I'll bring in Crosby Swartz, followed by Dennis Dudzik.
Go ahead, Mr. Schwartz.
Good afternoon, President Dean and members of the board. I have 2 comments on the strategic goal to achieve approval of the WRF permit. This item is on page 5 of the agenda package. The first task listed is to investigate and complete a study for new cost-effective options and technologies for reduction and disposal of brine waste, including costs. Present a report to the board upon conclusion of the study, end quote. This is an important task that has not been completed. The Global Water Innovations pilot project could lead to a cost-effective solution, but there are other options that should be investigated at the same time. Ultimately, the district should select the most cost-effective option for Cambria's specific requirements. My second comment about the goal to achieve approval of the WRF permit concerns the absence of discussion about the mitigation requirements for the WRF project imposed by the Water Master Plan Environmental Impact Report. During the permit approval process, the district should be prepared to answer agency requests for a progress report on implementation of required mitigation measures, including the build-out reduction program. My final comment is on the strategic goal to execute projects for the wastewater treatment system. This item is on page 6 of the agenda package. I submitted a written comment at the December 15th board meeting, which is attached, about the impacts caused by a future failure of the effluent pipe from the wastewater treatment plant to the San Simeon Creek percolation pond, near the same location as the recent water main pipe failure. This potential failure could shut down all district water and sewer operations until a temporary effluent pipe could be put into operation. We recommend the addition of a task to complete an emergency response plan to restore water and sewer service as soon as possible after an effluent pipe failure. That's my comment. I'd like this included in the record of the meeting, and I hope you will discuss some of these items tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Dennis Dudzik, followed by Elizabeth Benhausen.
Go ahead, Mr. Dudzik.
Thank you very much, President Dean and members of the board. I have specific comments related to items 8A and 8B from last week's meeting that was continued to this meeting. I'd like to start with those. Is that appropriate?
8A, yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Those were related to our strategic plan. So.
Absolutely. So, excuse me, make sure I've got them in least appropriate order here. Okay, let me begin by emphasizing that my wife and I are contributing and involved members of the Cambria community. It just happens that we're homeless property owners living in Eugene, Oregon, and waiting to build our home on the Bradford property that we have owned for over 20 years. As most of you know, I've been a frequent, supportive, and collaborative participant in CSD board meetings and workshops going back several years. I appreciate the magnitude and sensitive nature of the ongoing WRF coastal development permit application process, that it requires compliance with CEQA, consistency with local coastal program policies, and is currently on information hold pending CCSD staff response. And it's it's potentially going to be subject to Coastal Commission approval and appeal. As Acting General Manager D'Angelo and the board members from last year are aware, the engineering firm of GEI completed a detailed review and analysis of the 2020 UWMP in February 2022, and concluded and demonstrated that the moratorium on water connections imposed by the CCSD in 2001 is no longer appropriate. The report, delivered to the General Manager on March 8, 2022, utilized the CCSD's 2020 Urban Water Management Plan data to evaluate Cambria's water supply and demand situation. And it concludes that immediately beginning the issuance of intent to serve letters to permit up to 184 additional water meter connections or more can be accomplished without compromising system reliability for existing users during multiple year droughts and without relying on any water from the WRF. Tragically, this information was not considered in developing the current strategic plan. The board owes it to the community to study, release, and discuss the GEI report, along with the district staff's analysis of its conclusions and recommendations, so that the public can understand and appreciate the extent to which Cambria's water use conditions have changed for the better, and so that everyone can be confident that it is safe and appropriate to end the moratorium. The board needs to communicate these findings to the county and the Coastal Commission and start the process of securing their support. Past planning was apparently driven by fear that the Coastal Commission would look unfavorably upon the WR permit application process if the CCSD board or staff so much as mention new permits or ending the moratorium in the CCSD's strategic plan. The CCSD's board has a duty to adopt a strategic plan that fully and openly considers all of the data that supports an end to the moratorium. The plan must therefore include the actions, steps, milestones, and dates to achieve this goal to the benefit of the entire community. We're part of the Cambria community and we're here to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dedzik. AGP, is there any way to turn up the volume, the public comment that's on Zoom? Thank you. Ms. Dodson?
The next member of the public that wishes to speak is Elizabeth Benhausen.
Good afternoon, Dr. Bettenhausen. Go ahead. And I keep forgetting to start the timer. It's 3 minutes, if you don't mind, please.
Well, thank you very much, Madam President. It's not surprising to me that when it's my turn to speak, you remember the timer. That's a joke. That's a
I'm
joke
sorry.
after
It had nothing to
20
do
years.
with it. It had nothing to do with you.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, on the audience and participating. At your meeting today, you're going to consider the strategic plan, dear board. I have one overriding concern about your strategic plan. What is your purpose for this plan? Put differently, why do you have this plan? Put differently, what substantial use do you have for this plan? Put differently, how does the community benefit from your plan? At your public meetings, you have long discussions of this plan, item by item, sometimes suggesting a change. But what purpose does this serve? Your discussions very rarely address a substantive issue, and even more rarely discuss it decisively. Instead, you toss root notions back and forth, often editorial, come to some sort of agreement, and go to the next item. I've heard your use of the strategic plan called, quote, busy work, end of quotation. And that's not my term, but I agree with it. Then every 6 months, you spend 2 days of special meetings on the strategic plan. In one sense, the strategic plan is a fancy record of how the staff does some of its work. So is the strategic plan a way that you oversee how well your general manager is doing her or his work, which is overseeing the work of the staff? I could speculate endlessly about elements of all of this. For example, how do you decide who will guide the special meetings on the strategic plan now that you no longer hire the consultant who got all of this going at the request of former General Manager Weigold, who fell in love and has left that position? I conclude that today and tomorrow, you will need the expertise of an accountant, given former Director Steidel's background. I spare you and me additional possibilities, which I could describe. What exactly do you want to achieve by giving so much insubstantial attention to this table of goals and objectives again and again and again? I thank the people who have commented from the public already because so many substantial issues have been raised. And they're the kind of substantial issues that do not get addressed in these special 2 days of meetings. I will not attend the rest of this meeting for 2 reasons. Number one, when I went to the beach this morning, I noticed a major decline of the bluff between Shamel Park's fence and the Santa Rosa Creek. I want you to discuss at some point, of course, what is your joint responsibility with San Simeon State Park, SLO County Parks, on the condition of Santa Rosa Creek and the maintenance of it as one of our major sources of water, even though this crack now is down by the outflow. I will write a letter including you also to the head of state parks and county parks. And then I will have to take some time and simply meditate on a conversation I have on the beach today. A young man is taking care of his friend's daughter. The young man is getting out of prison today. Why was he in prison? I asked. On drug stuff. And I'm taking care of my 5-year-old daughter. And they were both playing by the creek. I said, why are you taking care? Oh, because my wife is on meth. She can't do it. Have you ever gone on drugs? I asked very congenially. And he said, oh, yes. And we talked about fentanyl and the overdose in the United States on drugs. I know this is not in your specific plan, but if you tell me it's never been an issue in the staff, I will hold you to account to document that. I thank you very much for your consideration of all the public comments. I'm sure you will take them with utmost seriousness, as you always do. And I wish you a very good, deliberative, substantial meeting today and tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr.
Elizabeth,
Benhausen.
I'm Elizabeth Bettenhausen. My name is not up in this version. Oh, there it is. It just sprang up. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Ms. Dodson.
I have no other members of the public that wish to speak via Zoom, but I know that Christine Heinrichs wanted to speak on this item, followed by Ted Key.
Yes. Ms. Heinrichs. And I realize a lot of these have been going over 3 minutes, but if we can try to we have a lot.
I was going to ask about that because I do have more than 3 minutes, but
Okay.
I'll do my best to be brief.
Okay.
I have comments in several areas on water resources. What is holding up the Stewart Street tank replacement? That money was allocated last August. Does the district need to contact Representative Carbajal for help getting this money, or is the hangup in the district? Please get the public report on this important project. The brine waste pilot project needs to be brought to the public. Mr. Danzo appears confident in outsourcing this to the company that will provide the work, but this project needs district oversight. It cannot be left to the company that plans to get the contract. What permits will be needed to perform this pilot project? What is involved? Clark Easter, founder and CEO of the company, lives right here in Cambria. Please invite him to make a presentation to the board as to what is proposed and what is involved. The coastal development permit. I asked the board to consider what the district's actual intentions with regard to the EWS, SWF, WRF, and its required coastal development permit really are. After reviewing some of the project's history, I noticed that the board's decision points have usually chosen a path that will lead to delaying the project. Back in July 2019, the board hired Pavo Ogren for $25,000 to advise the district on how to get the CDP. He gave his report to the public and the board at the November 21st, 2019 meeting. The board appeared to support his recommendation to apply for a permit for the project as built to serve existing users only. The board, under President Dave Pearson, referred the project description and application to the R&I committee, asking for a recommendation that could then be submitted to the county. Somehow, the R&I committee never took the subject up. It's not on their agenda in the following months. Instead, General Manager Weigel presented a project description for the most difficult level that Mr. Ogren recommended at the June 25th, 2020 meeting. After 3 hours of discussion, including all the arguments against it, The board decided by consensus, without a motion or a vote, to submit that project description, knowing it would be unlikely to be approved. Sure enough, it wasn't, and it still isn't. Mr. Ogren also advised the board not to change the project's name. The board changed the project's name, causing more confusion. At that 2020 meeting, Mr. D'Anzo discussed the studies that would be required. Nearly 3 years later, the studies remain incomplete. Deadlines are blown past. The promise that the application would be completed by the end of 2022, the biological studies, which were under contract to be completed last September, are perhaps done or not done. I've heard no report on their status. Mr. D'Anzo now proposes yet more changes, which the Coastal Commission environmental scientist Tom Luster has described as 1 step forward and 2 steps back.
Can you conclude, please?
Sure.
Okay.
I am asking the board in your strategic planning to decide what it is you want to do. Are you in favor of getting this permit? In that case, you should amend the permit and project description to the plant as built for existing users only. This wastewater treatment plant financing working group is new. Director Gray said that the finance committee didn't have enough work to do. Surely with $12 million in the offing, there's plenty. Improving public communication was the district's top priority. Most of the communications I send to the board remain unanswered. Elected officials are required to engage with their constituents. Using the Brown Act as a fig leaf to pretend that that they don't have opinions is not acceptable. And this matter of a facilitator, the board changed its practice of hiring a neutral professional facilitator for the strategic planning workshop in favor of inviting former CSD director Cindy Seidel to facilitate. She was a polarizing figure on the board. She is unpopular with many Cambrians. Choosing her to facilitate the workshop makes a statement of partisanship that sets the stage for division in the coming year. I'm sorry that the board has decided to begin 2023 with a controversial and divisive choice. Thank you.
So Ted Key is the next person that wishes to
Okay.
speak.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep this down as close to 3 minutes as
I'm gonna make
possible.
it
So I
really short.
realize we've been
Shorter than
going
that.
over.
Don't worry, I'm going to make it a lot shorter than that.
Okay.
First of all, welcome back, everybody. Ted Key, Cambria. In your strategic plan, obviously, you're going to be going over this business with the WRF in detail. Let me just say this. The new technology that will handle the effluent problem for the WRF does really change quite a bit about the permitting process and the whole business that's been dragging on for a long time. So that's obviously something I know that Mr. D'Anzo is going to be looking at very carefully. My suspicion is that the advent of this technology is going to make getting the CDP a lot easier than it has been. And so it's going to be an important aspect of your deliberations. What happens as a result of Cambria being able to provide ecologically sound, financially viable, and sustainable water is going to be a big issue for the community and the board. Obviously, that's the board's task to provide water for the community. What happens as a result of that is something that is going to have to be discussed in the public forum. And I do know that the grant that was submitted by GWI includes a suggestion for forums to be public forums to be held to deal with just those issues. And there's no question about it. Absolute transparency and public involvement is going to be integral to making sure that this huge change to Cambria is properly addressed by all. I just can't imagine that, you know, the district being able to provide ecologically sound, financially viable, and sustainable water is something that people would be against. I mean, you know, everybody's been wondering, where's the CDP? Where's the CDP? Well, if this helps us get the CDP faster, then that's a good thing. let me just say, I think that as the board progresses in the next 3 years, you're going to need to be paying a little bit of attention to the build out reduction plan that was never adopted by the CSD. Now, obviously, that was completed a number of years ago by very bright people, and is going to need to be refreshed and looked over, in light of some of the new things that are going to be happening here. So that's really, I think, the main, people have really touched upon a lot of very good points along the way here. And I guess that's about what I have to say today is take a look at that, take a look at the BRP and figure out, if that's something we can do or whatever. So thanks.
Thank you. Okay, is that it for the general public comment on items on the agenda?
I think that's it.
Okay, let's move on to regular business item 3A. Would you like to introduce this, Mr. Danzo?
Thank you. For item 3A, staff recommends that the Board of Directors discuss and consider the latest monthly update to the strategic plan. The board held a special meeting on June 27th in 2022 and adjourned to June 28th, 2022 to update the strategic plan. This included a review and update of the goals for the next 3 years and underlying objectives to be accomplished over the next 6 months. Staff recommends the board review, discuss, and consider this monthly update to the strategic plan.
Thank you. Okay, the strategic plan charts are in the agenda packet, and anything that's had a change since the last monthly review is in the agenda packet on the charts in red. So since the other ones haven't changed, we're just going to go through and verify the things that are marked in red that have changes. Do we normally have Haley put this on the screen? I don't think so, do we?
I suppose we could put it on screen.
Well,
Yeah.
so the public can
Yeah,
see what we're
yeah.
talking about, probably would be helpful.
Yeah, just give me a second to
Okay.
display it.
Pardon me? When we're done. I'll take public comment on these updates when we're done going through the charts. Just a little background, these goals were adopted by the board in August 11th as the goals that we are looking at from June 2022 to June 2025. These are the 3-year goals. And these are the objectives that were put in place or decided upon to help us achieve those goals. And on a regular monthly basis, we do review the progress we are making on achieving those objectives. So this is one of those monthly updates. Okay. So on the second item down, it's present to the board the implementation plan for the previously approved water meter replacement program. And the date that would be accomplished would be at a February 2023 board meeting. Mr. Danzo, are we on track for that?
We're actually proposing one of the March meetings for that.
March meeting,
Yes.
okay, so the date, the when is moving to March?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, the next item that's marked as having a change is present to the board the implementation plan for the Stewart Street tank construction dependent upon the receipt of appropriate monies. And that date has been revised to the first quarter 2023 at a board meeting. Is that still on track, Mr. Danzo?
Yes, that's still on track.
Okay. Okay, going to the next goal. Investigate and complete the study for new cost-effective options and technologies for reduction, disposal of brine waste, including the costs, and present a report to the board upon conclusion of the study. And this date was revised. The pilot program tentatively is scheduled for early 2023. And it says second quarter 2023. Is that still correct, Mr. Danzo?
Yes, that's still correct. Yes.
Okay,
Madam President.
Yeah.
Would it be okay to have a question?
Do you have a question on an item?
Yeah.
Go
On
ahead.
this specific item.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam President, other directors. My question would be, I know that we've talked about the zero liquid discharge option. Are there any other options that we have researched that will be in the report during the second quarter of 2023? Thank you.
Mr. Danzo?
I don't think we do.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
R&I did form an ad hoc committee to research the other options. And that ad hoc committee is changing due to the change of the R&I members. So we are looking at other options. And this zero liquid discharge was discussed at R&I in our March meeting. So for more information, you could look at our March meeting. Thank you. Okay, the next item that has a change is submitting the data needed to complete the CDP application for the county. And this would be the in-stream flow study task 1 information. And we have on here that the date was revised to the first quarter of 2023. Is that still correct, Mr.
Yes,
Dan?
that's still correct.
Okay. And then also complete the task 1 in-stream flow study and report the results to the board. And that is still on there
Yeah,
now.
that's still correct.
That's correct.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, looking at the wastewater services. We've got down here to hold the initial meeting of the wastewater treatment plant finance working group to determine the methodology for review and identification of transactional documentation and agreements related to the CSDA's trustee and underwriter. We did present a draft of an Excel spreadsheet for this a while back. But is this still on track to hold this working group meeting?
Yes, that's still on track.
Okay.
Yes.
The next one down is to conduct the working group review of contractual documents and formally document the required actions. And I believe that's part of this objective above, and that's still the first quarter.
Yes, that's still
Okay.
on track.
And then to revise any district policies or procedures to incorporate the findings of the working group as appropriate. And that's to be determined, but we still have that as first quarter. Is that correct?
Yes, I would hold that still.
Okay. Okay, moving on to the fire protection and emergency services. We have review and update the adopted multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan for Cambria and report the results to the board for consideration. And that date was changed to the first quarter of 2023. Is that still on track, Chief Vincent?
That may be pushed to April as we are working with Cambria Healthcare District as well. So it's not just on my end that'll have to be done.
Okay, so we need to adjust the date
will
to
probably-
April, or do you
April,
want to say second quarter?
second quarter would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, the next one was present to the board a report on research done on procedures for evacuation of residents needing help and identification of safe havens for evacuees. We have already given one report to the board, but we are still working on this. And Vice President Gray is working on this with me. Do you have an anticipate? You know, I know we're working with several other entities on this, so what would your?
Yeah, I don't, we did one report, which was sort of a progress report. We could do another progress report because there's a lot going on at various levels. Maybe because obviously November 17th, 2022 is not.
That's when
not
we gave our progress report. Okay.
Right. So I would say maybe we could aim at something again around April. Because we'll
Okay.
have quite a bit, I think we'll have substantial progress to
Yeah.
talk about that.
Okay, let's go ahead and put April 2023 on there.
Yeah.
We're ready sooner than that. We can give our report sooner than that. Okay. Report on the progress of implementation of the Zone Haven system and the emergency alert system. And we had down here to begin with early 2023, and it says future objective, but do you have any timeline for that?
Again, this is going to be a little bit outside of CCSD. waiting and working with partners in grant funding. I would like to try to bring an update in the second quarter as it's
Second
outside
quarter.
of my control at this point.
Madam President.
Yes.
I have a question. So, you have, the objectives here, and then you have future objective. What does that mean? Just for my clarification.
We haven't set a date yet.
Oh,
Okay. And the core area of facilities and resources. We have pursue identified and potential grant funding sources for the Veterans Hall capital improvement projects and report the results to the board. It looks like we applied for a grant through Verizon, and I'm seeing that since it says done and we don't have a grant, we did not get the grant.
Correct, we did not get the grant.
Okay. Okay, present to the board for review and consideration the pros commission's recommendation options for the East Ranch recreational expansion. We did get that already, so that's done. Investigate and identify options for use of the Veterans Hall and present to the board for consideration. And the timing of that looks like it's been revised. But I don't have a date here. So do we have an idea of when this will be done? I believe it's the general manager working with an ad hoc committee. Mr. D'Anzo?
So I was hoping to get some input on the ad hoc committee for this.
Okay, so we
Yeah.
just say first quarter.
Yes.
Okay, and then we have obtained construction permit and present to the board for consideration the construction RFP for the East Ranch restrooms. And the date for that has been revised because of requirement of soils report. So is first quarter 2023 still accurate?
Yes, first quarter is still accurate.
Okay. Director Farmer?
Thank you, President Dean. I just wanted to briefly follow up on how the effort is being made to pursue what's going to be happening on the East Ranch with regard to recreational opportunities. And so there's a few of us who are getting together like every 2 or 3 weeks at the Chamber of Commerce on Saturday mornings to discuss moving forward to be getting input from the community as to what they would want out on the East Ranch. So we had our first appearance at the farmers market this past Friday. And also what we're doing is collecting signatures of people that would like the projects that we're right now suggesting and recommending. And once we get a sufficient number of signatures, we're going to bring all the information that we've collected back to the board. So they have something to initiate with confidence that it's not just the pros commission themselves, but members of the community who have been contributing to what we're going to do moving forward. So I just wanted to mention that because action is taking place. And Julie Amadei who is the ex officio member of pros regarding the skate park. She's also very much involved in this particular project, which is, like I said, gaining more signatures, getting more information from the public with regard to what they would want on the East Ranch. So I just so you let you know something is happening in that regard.
Thank you. And that's part of the future objective. Number 7 on here is develop options for community park projects. And we will be addressing that tomorrow during our strategic plan workshop. It's listed here as a future objective, but it is part of what we're going to be looking at tomorrow. Okay, does anyone on the board have any questions or comments on this update? Director Thomas?
I just wanted to comment. It was insightful that you said that these were the 3-year strategic goals, and I've always been perplexed. At the top, the headline is 6-month strategic goals.
We
So that was
update the
odd.
objectives every 6 months, but the goals are set for 3 years.
Okay, might be worthwhile saying that on the headline. That's great.
Okay,
So I had been thrown off by that in the past.
okay, thank you. Do we have any public comment on this?
I do. And can I just remind the directors to speak directly into their microphone? Otherwise, I can't hear you guys when I'm taking the minutes 2 weeks from now.
Thank you.
Okay, David Pearson wishes to speak.
Go ahead, Mr. Pearson.
Yes, good morning, board. I just wanted to comment briefly on the multi-jurisdictional hazard update. I know that's due in February to be submitted, so I'm wondering if we need to get an extension in order to wait until the second quarter. I understand that the chief needs more time, but it may be necessary to get an extension from FEMA or whoever is the agency that's looking for this update that is due in February.
Chief?
I can speak to that briefly and just say that it is due, our plan is to not do our own hazard mitigation plan moving forward. So in about 2.5 years, we'll hop in with the county. Fortunately, us and the healthcare district, for some reason, did the last one on our own. So to do just the immediate update to buy us time to jump into the counties, we're going to do that. And then I believe this was supposed to be done and approved by November of last year, actually. So it is still a work in progress, but the goal will be to have it done and submitted to FEMA and to the county, so it's on their record in the next 2 to 3 months.
Okay, great. Thank you. Do any other members of the public have public comment? Okay, on other issues. Thank you. Okay.
Dennis Dudzik just raised his hand.
Is this on the update that we just did?
I just want to be sure that I don't miss the opportunity to talk about some of the issues related to the WRF and long-range water supply issues.
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear the last part.
Long-range water supply issues.
Okay.
Opportunities.
Is this for the strategic plan that we're working on tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, receiving community input for the strategic plan is 3B, and we're currently on 3A.
Okay,
I
so
thought-
the
my
next item,
apologies.
yeah, because we're still doing the update. Thank you, Haley.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I don't think we normally take a vote on this update, do we? No, I don't think we do. Okay. This is the first you have to excuse me. This is the first time I've done this part of it. Okay. Okay, so now we're ready for regular business item 3B. Mr. D'Anzo.
Yes, thank you, President Dean. Agenda item 3B is to receive community input for strategic plan. So the overview for this is the special board meeting will be held over two days in order to update the strategic plan. The first day, which is obviously happening today, is to solicit community input and comments focusing on the 3 areas: district strengths, district weaknesses, and district goals, as well as any other issues related to the development of the district's strategic plan. Tomorrow, which is the second day of the special board meeting, will be held as a day-long board workshop facilitated by Cindy Steidel via Zoom, which the community will be able to observe via Zoom. So today for 3B, we are soliciting input from the community for these 3 areas: district strengths, district weaknesses, and district goals, as well as other issues related to development of the district strategic plan.
Okay. So we're going to be taking public comment on the 3 areas. I'm sorry, I thought you had your light on.
I do.
Oh, okay.
Madam President, I just want to make sure, because under overview, it says that the first day will be held with a Zoom webinar, and it's really a hybrid webinar. And so I hope there was no confusion for the public that they were able to come here.
The top of the agenda did say it was in person at the Vets Hall
Yes.
and in Zoom.
Yes, it did, but this doesn't say it. So, right.
But this is not.
Yeah,
Yes, it
but the
does.
actual agenda
But-
does.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm just,
we don't put that on every single item in the agenda.
okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the first item we're going to take community input on is the district strengths. What are the Cambria Community Services District's strengths and accomplishments since the June 28, 2022 strategic plan workshop? So does anyone have any public comment or input on what they see the district strengths were? And that would be any positive things that happened. We have any? Okay, so nobody thinks we did anything positive, I guess. Haley, do we have any public comment on that item?
Yes, we have Ted Key,
Okay, thank you.
followed by Dennis Dudzik via Zoom.
Okay,
Well, I'll tell you what some strengths are for this particular district. The people that I saw out there keeping this place afloat in the middle of a deluge. What you have in this district are some really good, hardworking people. That's one thing that's absolutely a strength here in this district. And I think we also have, do have a perspective of hopefully anyway, moving forward with ecologically sound directions. I know that I submitted a climate policy, which is now being considered by the R&I department standing, which I think is great. I would urge you all to be thinking about how we can continue to move forward with solar power to mitigate the costs, especially those for the WRF. We're going to start running that more. I know that the GWI piece doesn't consume nearly the power that the WRF does, but there are options for us, and now's the time with solar power. It's not just a matter of being green either. There is no cheaper per kilowatt hour electricity than solar. And for us to get involved with those things, it can save a lot of money that you can put towards those innumerable things that people have mentioned, repairing pipes forever, and God knows the infrastructure issues here, and the WWTP stuff that has to be attended to. So any way that you can think about thinking ahead and all of that, I mean, especially for clean power, it not only makes sense green, but it makes a sense in terms of money. So carry on.
thank you.
Okay, Dennis Dudzik is the next person that wishes to speak.
And this is on the district's current strengths and accomplishments.
I guess we'll find out.
Go ahead.
I apologize for the laughter there, but absolutely, I've been very impressed with Ray Danzo's taking charge and rapidly coming up to speed. And the presentation last week's board meeting was outstanding. Really a great job of pulling together the history and making those old facts relevant and bringing everybody up to speed. I was very pleased with that, and I'm pleased with the fact that the board is open once again to revisiting the strategic plan and keeping it current. And all good news. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any more public comment on district strengths and accomplishments?
Yes, Julie Amade.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Amadei.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. I just want to say thank you for the continued support, both on behalf of the board and administration in keeping the eye on the skate park project and just an open mind to infrastructure. But it is deeply appreciated. I know it's been a 2.5-year process. And I just think that there's the strength of being able to have the willingness to find solutions, communication, the ability to engage the public. To Harry's point, thank you very much. We are going out to the public to ask them what they want, what they need, how they see using that open space, that beautiful outdoor opportunities. And I just genuinely want to say thank you on behalf of just not myself, but those that are helping on these teams to continue to move outdoor recreation forward. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Julie. Okay, we have Mr. Howell.
Thank you. Don Howell, Cambria. Just a couple of comments. What Mr. Key already said, I just wanted to second that and to remind people, I mean, we often don't appreciate our staff because as long as the water is running and the toilets are flushing, we don't really think about it very much. But as this storm, as the storm came and hit us and we began to see, they're very highly competent, and I would have to say really devoted to their work. And we can be very thankful for that. I think we can also be thankful that they do seem, because they are devoted to their work, they are hopefully not likely to take too much to heart some of the criticisms that are leveled against them at these meetings. But that I think is the staff is probably one of the prime strengths that we have. But in addition to that, something that I think is unique for this particular community is we actually do have a relatively engaged public. Now, it's true that the majority of the comments that you hear in front of you do tend to be negative. It's much easier, in fact, and far more interesting to make negative statements. But the opposite, if you had no engagement at all, I can assure you, having sat in your position, that's worse than hearing the criticisms. So even though we may sometimes be irritated, the fact that they're there and watching what happens is a good thing. So that is in fact a strength. But in addition to that, we have many people who are positively engaged. You don't usually hear from them up here, but the case in point is the current enthusiasm that the Pros Commission is generating. And the energy and the synergy that is taking place, starting with the skate park, but it's starting to bleed over into other activities. And I think this is incredibly positive, and it's something that as we go forward, I'm hoping that this board will continue to encourage, particularly on that aspect. Remembering, you are not just a water board, you are also fire safety, parks and recreation, and streetlights. Anyway, thank you. And thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, this timer and I don't get along very well. Okay. Do we have any more public comment on our strengths and accomplishments? Okay.
I do not.
Okay, moving on. Excuse me. It's been requested. It's been requested. We take a 5-minute break.
That's fine by me.
Okay. Which clock are we going by? That one. Okay, so let's say 2:05. 5-minute break, and then we'll resume public comment because we want your input on all the rest of this too. Okay. Ms. Dotson, I think Director Farmer has a question for you.
Ms. Dotson, could you read off the people that are attending via Zoom, please? Thank you.
Yes, I've actually been keeping a list, so I'll just give you the full list if that's okay.
Sure. Do you feel like you want to wait a little bit longer? I think you could answer that now.
No, we can do it now. And then if you guys want to ask again, I can read it off.
Thank you.
We have one call-in listener, Dennis Dudzik, Elizabeth Benhausen, Alan Dean, Crosby Swartz, Laura Swartz, David Pierce.
She gives us a printed list after the meeting.
Yeah, I do email this to you guys after every meeting. So this is the email. Crosby Swartz, Laura Swartz, David Pearson, Julie Amadei, Michael Calderwood, Shweethwa, and Tony. So we have a total of 11 attendees.
Okay, and we have 6 members of the public in person. Thank you for coming. It's nice to see people in those chairs. Quite often we have meetings with only 1 or 2, and one of which is usually my husband. Okay, so we are now going to take public comment on the district's weaknesses. So this is what the Cambria Community Services District's current internal weaknesses and challenges are. And I have a speaker slip from Matt. Is it Dragon?
Thank you for your service. And, I'm a pastor of Calvary Chapel, right across the street from Mechanics Bank. And I'm here today representing 4 other churches along with ours, so 5 total. And the pastors of those 5 churches get together on a monthly basis and pray for one another, support one another, talk about what we're doing in our churches, but also what's going on in the community. And one of the primary subjects that never fails to come up is our homeless population. And with the strategic plan, I appreciate all the great number of subjects with, regard to recreation and water and fire protection and all those great subjects. But it hurt me not to see something with regard to the homeless population, because they are a part of our community. And I just wanted to express the support of the local churches. And if there's any way that we could get something going with regard to meeting their needs, whether it be a warming center. Many veterans halls are used as warming centers during the cold and rainy nights. And this one is a beautiful building. I had a Bible study for 9 years in what used to be the fireside room in this building, and really appreciated being able to use it for that season. But I would love to see this community come alongside this population, and I wanted to express the support of the local churches as well to do that. And so we just, however we need to get that ball rolling, if we could just do that, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. No, just come up and state your name.
I may lose my voice, but I'm Stuart Kreis. I've been living here for 18 years. I'm a neighbor of Matt's. As I crawled into my bed on those cold, rainy nights, I wondered about the homeless in our community and why the Veterans Hall was not being used. We have this facility. I think it's community owned. It might be under your jurisdiction, but we need to do something quickly about it when the temperatures are now beginning to get down into the 30s. When do we open this up? When do we have cots available, food available, other kinds of shelter? I've been in conversation with Wendy Lewis, who is the director at ECHO in Atascadero. She said in her conversation with me, she's willing, along with her organization, to come alongside of us here in Cambria with cots and supplies and those things. They do some work here in our community. It's just our needing to give them a nod. And the next cold, rainy night, this room's open. volunteers from the churches, I'm sure, will make themselves available. But we can't be heartless about this. And we have the facility, and there are extreme times when we need to be our brothers and sisters' keeper. That's the preacher coming out of me now. The other thing that concerns my wife and I is a report from the state of California that with all this rain, 80% of it ran into the ocean. And what is Cambria and the CCSD doing about reclaiming water? I know at one time there was discussion about a reservoir. But it's a shame to see all this water going down the hills. I knew Santa Rosa Creek needs to be resupplied, but for 80% to go into the ocean, when we could do something about reclaiming some of it, I think hopefully in your strategic plan, you will address that. Thank you.
Thank you. And can I ask you, please, to tell me again, you said that Wendy Lewis is the director of ECHO. Where?
ECHO. It's home base in Tascadero,
Tascadero.
but they're North County, and they have a major work also in Paso Robles.
Okay,
But
thank you.
she's willing to come alongside here.
Okay, thank you. Well, okay, Mr. Keith. And this is on the district's weaknesses.
Man, I'm like a bad burrito. I keep coming back. So, so anyway, on these challenges, and the first one I'm going to mention is one that is as much in my court as it is in your court, and that is we need to get through with the update of the policy handbook. We need to chop through that, and I know that that's something we've been discussing in policy standing, and I've indicated to a couple of members, and I would like to get together and form an ad hoc so that we can really focus on how we can get this thing tied up a little better in chunks and get it done. That's one thing. I'll say on the issue of homelessness, I think there's parameters that the CSD can do and CSD can't do. What makes sense. That the issue of unhoused people is huge in this country, and it's not just a matter of warming people and so on and so forth. It's a matter of a comprehensive plan for dealing with not just housing, but mental health, health in general, helping in so many areas. It has to be more comprehensive than just housing, and that really belongs actually more in the county's ballpark. I would urge you or anybody listening to take a look, believe it or not, at what Bakersfield is doing for their unhoused people. They are doing a terrific job with their unhoused people. So whatever they're doing is well worth a look. And also what's happening in Finland with their unhoused people and how they deal with it there. But again, where are the fences of responsibility for CSD versus the county in terms of unhoused people? I would urge people also to think about that, because well, that's it. Then there's fences for your level of responsibility and all this, but anything you can do, of course, is a good thing.
Thank you. I will say we're lucky to have our facilities and resources manager that goes out and tries to work with them, with the homeless community too. He's very compassionate. Okay.
President Dean, I do have a member of the public that wishes to speak via Zoom.
Okay.
Dennis Dudzik.
Hello again, Mr. Dudzik. Go ahead.
Hello again. Well, I have spent some time preparing for this, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to provide some useful input. Well, In terms of weakness, I would say it this way, that one of the weaknesses the district has that it can definitely overcome is making current decisions without consideration of the current situation and associated data. And as regards to the issues that were just being brought up about homelessness and the housing crisis, California is in the midst of a severe housing supply crisis. To address this crisis, 3 new pieces of legislation were passed in September of 2021, SB 8, SB 9, and SB 10. The legislation sets new state requirements to immediately address impediments to infill development. And the water waitlist lots just happen to meet the exact definition of the California Government Code of infill development. And the state has determined that building on these lots represents the most environmentally responsible way to increase the housing supply in California. And to quote from SB 10, the legislature finds and declares that provision of adequate housing in light of the severe shortage of housing at all income levels in this state is a matter of statewide concern. And it goes on from there. But as the local community is well aware, and as we've heard today, Cambria is experiencing the housing crisis on a local but equally severe scale. The lack of new housing, inflated home prices, and associated reduction in Cambria's population have led to closed businesses, declining classroom enrollment, and reduced ability to provide community services. As confirmed by the U.S. Census Bureau and shown in a table in the 6-page report that I provided to the board and to the board secretary, Cambria has over the last 20 years seen its population decline by 554, a total of almost 9%. And this decline in population, it can be reversed and can be dealt with, and with significant benefits. And I'll talk more about that in the next item on other goals and other issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Howell.
Thank you, John Howell, Cambria. It seems to me the chiefest weakness that the district has is related to its funding. The enterprise funds, that is to say the water and sewer, this is really more for the benefit of the other folks listening, namely the enterprise funds, which is the major thing that people think of for CCSD. Those are supported by the rates. In other words, we provide a service and then we charge for that service, but we are of course limited to charging only what that service costs, so we can't make a profit on that. So that's the water and the sewer issue. To deal with the other things, and many of which are brought now, for example, how the vets hall is used or what other things that the district can do for the community, especially those things which are within the district's purview, namely parks and recreation, fire protection. Those things are largely funded through a very small share of the property tax that is returned to us from the county. So we have many demands beyond serving just the utilities in terms of the benefit of the community, but a very, very limited source of money. And so again, this is leading me to the next, I'm straying a little bit. So what we need to do, or what's needed, is to seek, if you can't find extra money, you need to find extra help. So if we have, again, because of the kind of community we have lots of volunteerism, it seems to me that, again, it may be time for the district to start to seek more help from volunteers for these. For example, if you open the vets hall, you're going to have to have people here to supervise. Well, the district can't afford that. And certainly the homeless can't afford to pay the fee for using the vets hall. That means you will need something like volunteers. So just as an example, so it's a weakness in the sense that you are really constrained. There's a lot of demands from you in terms of what you're expected to provide, but you have very, very little resources with which to do it. And so that's the heart of the problem.
Thank you.
Here, and I have another member of the public that wishes to speak via Zoom.
Okay,
David Pearson.
okay, go ahead, Mr. Pearson.
Yes, good afternoon again. I would just like to echo the fine comments by Mr. Howell. He is spot on. The general fund is severely underfunded so that we have had to cut back on areas of fire protection and taking care of the Veterans Hall and other areas. And I think that needs to be addressed. Certainly tomorrow is where we can get either additional funding or, as Mr. Howell states, get some volunteers to assist us in taking care of these areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more public comment on this particular item?
David just raised his hand again. I'm guessing that's just an error. So no.
Okay. Okay. We'll take board comment when we're all done. Okay, I think you look like you're gonna ask a question. Okay, so public comment now is on the district goals, the external factors and trends that might have a positive impact on us in the coming year, and what the external factors and trends that might have a negative impact on the CCSD in the coming year. So do we have any public comment on that part? Haley?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Oh, one just popped up. Dennis Dudzik.
Go ahead, Mr. Dudzik.
Okay, thank you. I apologize for a second. I zipped on one other page and I need to get back to my
Okay.
page. There we go. Okay. Well, I have done some analysis, and I did this a couple of years ago, and then I redid it again. And again, it's in the 6-page report, which I hope you will make a part of the packet when people come back and see this in the future. But I looked at when you look at opportunities, I mean, both former Presidents Howell and Mr. Pearson said it well. I mean, the district needs more money. It needs more sources of funds. And the district has the vehicle to achieve this, and that vehicle is in the connection fees. The district has the potential, with a very small increase or allotment of annual building permits, to collect millions of dollars in income every year to support all of these things that are needs of the community, including the WRF, including the homeless situation. And these fees haven't been updated since 2013. So here's another example of where there's an opportunity for the district immediately to direct the board, to direct the staff to update the fee schedule, identify the process by which these new permits could be issued, look at the time frame, and begin to figure out what's necessary and plan to make it happen. So that was my comment there. And by the way, per intent to serve letter, we were talking about somewhere between $28,000 and perhaps $50,000 per intent to serve letter. And we're talking, you know, even moderate amounts. This is, as I said, $1 million to $2 million a year or more. Anyway, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dudzik.
I just had a question for actually President Dean. I'm a little confused a little bit about the topic layout here, because I think is this topic district goals, or is it external weaknesses and strengths?
We're on district goals, the external factors and trends that could have a positive impact, and the external factors and trends that could have a negative impact. We're on that third number 3 district.
So this
goal.
is also not just goals, but also factors that are,
Factors.
okay, just to be clear. Thank you.
Okay. Director Thomas?
Yeah, thank you, President Dean, and also thank you, Director Gray. I had the same concern. The statement of goals, when you look at the 2 items underneath it, the external factors that are, can benefit, and the external factors that are negatives, in no other planning methodology are those considered goals. So perhaps in the future, we might just rejigger this so that that's clear, because this is, other than that, it's a conventional SWOT analysis.
Could I just have one more little comment?
Okay.
Yeah, just maybe to make it clear, this may be just considered as kind of the catch-all category, external factors and suggestions for goals, because I guess that's when we're asking for suggestions.
Yeah,
for goals.
well,
Make this the category for that, because
Things that would affect our goals. Because we have set our goals for the next 3 years. So these are internal and external factors that would affect our goal, achieving our goals. I believe it's how it is.
I get it was the agenda was a little confusing.
Yeah, I can see that.
I know if it's a SWOT analysis, then we are doing the
Yeah.
externals.
Yeah. So
That might be what we should say.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll when we get through with this next strategic plan workshop tomorrow, I think we need to have a meeting to discuss how we do the strategic plan and how all of this is worded, but in the meantime, but yes, I agree, it's a little bit confusing, so.
Yeah, so what we're welcoming right now is all external factors, whether they're to our benefit or to our detriment.
Exactly, and I have another request to speak from Mr. Key.
All right, Ted Key again, external factors. Climate change, my friends. Sea rise is real. It's happening here, it's happening everywhere. How are we going to respond to these situations that are getting worse by the day? Well, one of the things, of course, I think we need to also recognize is that the cost of power is continuing to go up. Now, I'm already spoken about solar power, but if you think that the price of gasoline and fuel is going to go anywhere but up in the future, I'm afraid you're mistaken. And so I urge the and the district to really look hard at how you can move towards the electrification of the fleet that we have. Again, maybe you spend a little bit more money up front, but the amount of money that you're going to save at the end of the day way outweighs. I mean, the cost per mile for all of this is going to be way less the more you electrify or do hybrid technology for any of the vehicles. I really urge you to think about those external factors, how the district will respond to climate change, how the district will respond to the increase in costs of energy. It's just going to happen. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, I believe Mr. Howell wanted to speak again on this topic.
Actually, this is actually more of a question.
Okay.
Is Mr. Carmel present today?
No, he isn't. We have
Is
Mr. Hirsch here as our counsel.
Okay, I wonder if the president, if you could ask a question, if you're willing, is since Mr. Dudzik brought up the issue of the connection fees and whether that would be a source of revenue for the district, it would be good to know whether those fees are under the same constraints that we have for the fees that we actually charge for our services. In other words, can we use connection fees to fund something other than the water infrastructure and the sewer infrastructure, which are supported by the rates? So, and since Mr. Dudzik, this is not the first time that he's brought this important point up. So I think it'd be well if we could all have a clarification with that.
Thank you. I had the same question. Okay, Mr. Hirsch, are you available?
Sure, I'm right here. I'm not sure how I appear when it comes to the Zoom at an in-person meeting. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Did you
Okay.
hear the
I-
question?
Yes, I did. And the answer is, of course, those funds would be restricted to the wastewater system or whatever, water system, whatever the connections are for, and couldn't be used more broadly for general fund purposes like parks or fire.
Okay.
So that would be problematic as far as looking at it as a broader revenue source.
Okay, thank you. That was the way I understood it, but it's helpful to get clarification for me and for everyone else. So thank you very much. Okay, I think we have one more public comment on Zoom, and that would be Crosby or Laura Schwartz. Go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon, President Dean and the board. This is Laura this time. Anyhow, my comment, and I think I made something similar before, I would think it would be a good idea that the district somehow gets a negotiator on board, either be it through a new general manager that's really tough on negotiating, or have someone on the staff or just the idea. And the reason I said this is that one of the outside influences is the county. And it would be really nice if at some point we really could negotiate some more funding for the homeless, some more funding for our fire department, just to give back some more of our taxes. And the thing is, if we had someone negotiating, instead of, we volunteered to help the county not too long ago with our expertise on this regional water thing or whatever, instead of just giving away our services, have someone negotiate. It's got to be a give and take. We give so much to the county, and we all know this. We give so much to the county. They take care of our roads, but they don't give enough of our property taxes back to make the place attracted to more visitors. So, and again, we need a negotiator, just like with our wastewater thing, not our wastewater, our waste, that last garbage rate that we had. There was no reason to have a 40% rate increase plus back, retroactive. You need someone who can stand up and has the confidence to get the best for the people in Cambria. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so does anyone else have any public comment that they wish to make on this strategic plan? You don't have to have a slip. You can just raise your hand and walk up if you have something else to say. Okay. Mr. Key.
Just one last comment. And it's maybe crazy for me to do this, but my wife is one of the best stand-up trainers you'll ever want to see in constructive debate and constructive negotiations. So if the district ever wanted to do workshops on those two things, you might want to connect with my wife, because she's done that for major corporations. So
Thank you. Thank you. And Ms. Dodson, do we have another one?
Dennis Dudzik.
I kind of thought so. Okay, Mr. Dudzik, go ahead.
Thank you all very much. Well, thinking forward, and a couple of folks have brought up solar and other, the surprise nobody mentioned wind. But the reality is that offshore wind development process has begun off the coast of Cambria. Not everybody is aware of this at the moment, but literally it's going to be directly off the coast of Cambria. That's where the lease areas are. And so this is important. It's critically important for strategic planning purposes. It's also important, and thank you, President Dean, for taking my comments back at the Resources Committee meeting, and Mr. D'Enzo for doing some follow-up. I appreciate that. So here's the short story. The U.S. Bureau of Ocean Energy Management is driving California offshore wind lease permitting and offshore wind development. And the BOEM director made the following commitments based on their requirements, and these are government, U.S. government requirements for tribal and community collaboration. And this is a quote: "The innovative bidding credits in the California auction will result in tangible investments for the floating offshore wind workforce," and I emphasize the word workforce, "and supply chain in the United States, and benefits to tribes, benefits to communities and ocean users that might be potentially affected by future offshore wind activities." And as a side note, that's Cambria. So this auction commits substantial, and the auction has been held, and there's been $750 million in invested here. The auction commits substantial investment to support economic growth from the floating offshore wind energy development, including the jobs that come with it. And that was a quote from Director Amanda Lefton. These credits and additional lease stipulations are demonstrating BOEM's commitment to responsibly grow the offshore wind industry and achieve offshore wind goals. So, General Manager D'Enzo has already begun following up on this, and it would be very critical that the strategic plan includes an element incorporating the progress of offshore activities and the integration of those activities with CCSD's activities. For example, let me just throw out an example, and this hasn't been vetted, it's just an example. What if CCSD says, okay, you're going to be impacting us, you're going to be offshore, we don't know all the impacts, but how about you developers offshore work with us to provide a source of power, no charge, for our WRF operation. And so you provide that power, and that will compensate for the impacts associated with your activities offshore. Anyway, there's any number of discussions that could occur, but the process needs to start, and it needs to be something that's followed, stayed on top of, and I'm sure it's going to be a critical component over the next 10 years. So it's not something that's going to happen tomorrow, but it is something that needs to be in your long-term planning process so that you can get the most benefit from the fact that there's going to be a lot of demand for resources, and Cambria is going to be the most obvious community impacted by that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I appreciate all of the time everyone has spent to give us their input on the way things are going in Cambria, and to assist us in our thinking on how we're going forward with our strategic plan. It's very much appreciated, and it's very important for us to hear from the community. I see we have one more person that's shown up, and do you have anything you'd like to say about our internal weaknesses and strengths and all that, or do you wish to make a public comment? Okay, just thought I'd give you the opportunity since you were here. Okay, and Haley, is there anyone else on Zoom?
No.
Okay, Director Farmer, you look like you were going to turn your light on. Did you have something you wish to say?
Yeah, I think I'd rather hear what other directors have to say, but while it's on my mind, with regard to Mr. and since Dennis and I know each other, Dennis, correct me, please. I thought your last name was pronounced Ducek. Am I correct?
Yes, it's pronounced Dujic. It's Polish.
Thank you. All right, I wanted to correct that for you, as well as everyone else that's mispronouncing your name. But so with regard to what you just said, with regard to wind power and utilizing whatever that can provide for the district here to make us more economically viable, so to speak. Cambria is I believe, the furthest south area that is in the Monterey Bay Marine Sanctuary, as well as in I think the California State Marine Park. And I'm seriously concerned about the environmental impacts of anything that happens off the coast of our area here or anywhere off the coast of California. And I'd be somewhat, like I said, reluctant. I realize we need to be investigating in as many sources as possible with regard to power in the future as to how we, empower this materialistic society that we live in. But like I said, I would be deeply concerned about any kind of environmental impacts. Also, with regard to Mr. Kreis, and I believe that he's left, as well as Mr. Dragon, they were talking about the homeless population and utilizing this facility here as a warming center. That's an excellent idea, and why it never popped into, why it never popped into our heads as something, because but we do, by the way, let me say this much. We also have a committee right now that's investigating the best uses of the Veterans Hall, as well as how to gain more funding for improving the Veterans Halls. I just wanted to mention that. But with regard to also Mr. Kreis, he mentioned off-stream storage and 80% of the water going out into the ocean. I'm ambivalent about saying this as well, because I saw somebody comment on social media with regard to why these criticisms of things that have happened in the past. Let's just move forward. So this district did have opportunity in the past to purchase land that was offered by one of the local ranchers for development of a reservoir for upstream storage. And past boards and general managers decided not to do that. It would be an expense if we try to do that now, and I don't know if we have the funding, but I just want to let folks know that that opportunity has existed in the past, and priorities. Let's put it this way, the board and general manager at that time chose not to make that a priority, and we could certainly be taking advantage of that opportunity now if we had done something in the past. I'm sure I have more to say, but I'll have to think back to whatever that is. But I just wanted to mention what I just did. Thank you so much.
Vice President Gray.
Yeah, thank you, President Dean. I have a question about what we're doing now, because are we supposed to be commenting on the public comment, or are we going to be doing that tomorrow? Because
Yeah, we're supposed to be doing it tomorrow.
I think we have to be kind of careful not to get into a back and
Discussion.
forth discussion, which is not agended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My apologies.
I know I'm not, it's not a criticism. I'm just saying we have to,
Yeah, no.
we have to sort of,
We-
hold ourselves back till tomorrow.
Okay. So again, thank you everyone for all of your input, and we will definitely take your comments into consideration as we do our strategic plan workshop tomorrow. And the strategic plan workshop starts at 8:30 a.m. and is available for the public to view on Zoom. But today was the day to receive your public comment. There will be no public comment tomorrow. And we're anticipating it to be over hopefully by 3:30. But it is on Zoom. I believe it's on HEP video.
Yes.
And then also the recording is available to watch later, if I'm understanding it correctly.
Yes.
Okay. Agenda item 3C, Mr. Dianzo.
Yes, agenda item 3C, so on Tuesday, January 31st, the Board of Directors will hold an adjourned special meeting to facilitate a workshop to update the Cambria Community Services District's strategic plan update and set a date for the next strategic plan workshop. So we will adjourn to that.
Okay, thank you. I believe if no one objects, we're ready to adjourn. Thank you. And again, Harry, Director Farmer.
These excellent comments, either constructive criticism or positive ways of moving forward for the district. And thank you all so much. And how could we say it? We'll raise the bar with regard to how we address your issues tomorrow. And say this much: this district, for reasons, and some of the folks that criticize might not agree with what I'm about to say, but this district is in much better shape than it was 6 months ago for a variety of reasons. I'm looking right across from me at the new fire chief as one example. I'm looking at the two people to the sides of me here as another example of how this district, and from the support of the community, is moving forward. We will soon be hiring a new general manager, and I have tremendous amount of faith that a year from now, 6 months from now, this district will be functioning better than it ever has in the 36 years that I've lived here. And I just want to make that comment, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Director Farmer.